Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Zwift Australian National Championships. We are on Watopia, about to crown the fastest man and woman in Australia out on Zwift. Joining us today for a little bit of analysis about the tech that's involved with Zwift and what Zwift's all about. We're going to be bringing in GP Llama, one of the most popular, actually, Zwifters coming out of Australia. Llama, what is going on with the tech? What is going on with Zwift right now when it comes to racing?
Well, first up, good morning, and good morning to everybody watching here in Australia or around the world from where you are. Yeah, a lot of questions coming in regarding the technology used for these kind of races. Look, a number of different platforms can be used. A smart trainer, where the resistance changes on the pedals based on the hills they're going up. A standard trainer, which will be all the same. You have to change through your gears. Or people could be racing on anything at all, as long as they've got a power meter that's actually measuring the effort that they're doing. So regardless if you have the top-end trainer, the middle range, an entry-level trainer, it doesn't really matter at all. To get from A to B, and in this case, such as a race like this, going up the hill as fast as you can, it's all about the energy and power put in. So a lot of different types of trainers being used, a lot of different tech. So no matter what you're up to, it's all hard work. And yeah, the strongest rider will win for sure.
Thanks a lot, Llama. I really appreciate the update there, and as well as joining us for the broadcast out here. GP Llama, make sure to check him out. He is definitely the one for all things tech, and I have a feeling he's going to be hanging out in the chat, hanging out with us, answering questions. So really great to have him here for part of the broadcast. Pat Shaw is also with us, commentator, very well-known commentator out of Australia, and he's going to give us some of the predictions. He's been following along with a lot of the E-Crit, a lot of the chop from Race WBR for all the down under stuff with him and Jesper. So Pat Shaw, welcome to the broadcast, man. What do you think's going to be happening out here for the racers for the predictions of the favorites?
Yes, well, we've seen a lot of the National Road Series guys coming on board for this particular event, generally using Zwift as a training mechanism, but today they'll line up and go for glory. Cam Roberts, a very good watts per kilo rider. He'll have to be one of the favourites. Aaron Dunn, brilliant on this type of course. He also becomes a favourite for today. But I'll be watching Troy Herfoss, Liam White, who's in Ballarat racing right from our own store in Ballarat. And also one rider really to watch would be that young rider that did well in the National Road Series last week, Ben Van Dam from the Wolfpack Tasmania team. So they'd be the people to watch out today.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that, Pat. Yeah, we'll be watching out for them. Aaron Dunn, of course, taking out the E-Crit series last year. And, of course, the in-real-life racing results, always super important. But speaking of the course, let's go ahead and take a quick little look at the course as that the riders are going to be taking on today. It is the Watopia Volcano Climb course. The men are going to be doing 3 laps. The women are going to be doing 2 laps out on the course there today. Of course, it's always, as always, starting from the pens, as we do see us zooming in here. This is where things are going to be fast and furious right from the get-go. Riders are going to have to kick it into 10 to 15 watts per kilogram to hold on to usually the cyclocross type starts. They're going to head on over toward the underground. Things might calm down at this point. We might see a couple try to get away, but we'll see the initial packs form throughout the underground here. Then they will be heading on over towards what's coined the Jarvis tree, because it is a remembrance a little bit from going through that tree from back on the beta days, way back on Jarvis Island. As they do exit this, there is a little bit of a climb out into the marina. There might be a couple of attacks there. Every lap, we might see an attack into that marina, as well as these little uphill gradient, about a 1% to 2% gradient through those S-turns. But then they head on over toward Scotty the Fountain, as well as the ruins, into the volcano. And this is where things really heat up, because the climb is about 450 feet or so. It is going to be the main place that the riders are going to be trying to get away. This is where we saw things in the New Zealand Championships. It's also where we saw things in the Northern Hemisphere Championships really break down, and the riders who were the strongest were able to get away, form a pack, but usually come into a sprint finish. As you can see, there are a couple little kicks here, a couple of flatten out points. It does get to a 10% gradient up toward the top, and there is that banner where the riders will be looking to hit around a 620 is what we saw for the climb time up to the top. So it is going to be a full-on VO2 max effort up to the top of the climb each time. We're going to get right into it, though, here. Wesman is with me, and the ride is about to start, actually, Wes. Here we go. And from the get-go, as usual, as we said, 10 watts per kilogram. We had 130, 140 riders jump in here. Kane Letter here already. Innovation up toward the front. See Halls there as well. And we are seeing Kent there as well as Elias from Innovation. Innovation showing up in force for all this Southern Hemisphere racing, Wes.
Absolutely, that these riders will have some teammates out there in amongst it. So Wolfpack Taz will be presented there as well. I am, I guess, the unofficial race director of Wolfpack Taz, but also Nadsy, the road captain, who has been very dominant in E-Crits last year. Didn't quite make it through the final, but there was plenty of hashtag wildcard for Nadsy thrown out. But it looks like we've got a hot contested start here, Nathan. As always, that out of the gun, that heart in your throat sort of start. Every one of the races here, they'll get straight up to that,
Look at it.
Heart rate. What's going on here already? Look at it stretch out here, Nathan. There is some watts being laid down here early. This is like coming into the final. Look at the size of the pack there. It's a nice size pack, and some orange numbers being shot up from even some of the riders that are towards the back of the field here. Now have to doing almost, Nathan, an attack effort to get back up to the front.
You definitely do. You know, if this pack does get away from you at this point, it's curtains. You need to do everything you can in these early moments to follow on, because the reality is everybody has a ton of energy saved up at this point, ready to go, ready to kick on and get away. And because of that, you can see a lot of rotations coming through into the orange numbers, which just continues to bring up the speed. The speed continues to go higher and higher and higher with each one of those attacks. And as you can see here, the pack is already starting to split. We are seeing probably a top 50 or so trying to get away. At actually 59, we're seeing 63 at this point. 142 riders jumping on into this group action. We are seeing Troy Herfoss actually looking for that national championship kit. It looked like sitting in 3.5 watts per kilogram, 150 beats per minute currently, keeping it pretty smart, but there is the reality of being too far back in these packs, though, because you might not see what happens up front. See Allen here right along with Mitchell. Looks like Lamprecht and Bambrick here just trying to hang on and get back on terms. Little Joey here now, 9.7 watts per kilogram. Looks like he had a little bit of a dropout for a moment there. We'll see if he can get back on terms as well. I think these riders will find that group again as long as they find the right wheel and kick it back, with what we've seen from Joey here. 6.7, but look how difficult it is. It's so hard once you're off the back here to get back on terms.
It is, and once you lose that drafting effect, once you get past that sort of close the gap of 4 meters, Nathan, that's when it really starts to kick in. And if you lose that gap, then it's certainly got to work to get it back. It looks like the rider's going to keep shuffling, sort of almost that domino effect of keep going across each other, building little bridges here, and going to probably come back to that bunch, but that without the expense of some firepower in the legs early on there too.
Huge bunch here now as we are seeing 80-plus riders or so. Those riders behind there are just going to try and find the front end of this group again. But up toward the front, we are all the way, look at this, all the way back at 60 right now in this group, up to almost 80 actually in this group. So we're going to keep on trying to work our way forward here. Zwift Kid is here. Asiano, second place last year at the live final actually for the E-Crit series. So watch out for the Zwift Kid here. He's always a threat. So many favorites here in the Australian National Championships. This is going to be a crazy race. I have a feeling every time we click through, we're going to be like, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. I mean, it's just going to be nonstop. Lots of favorites, lots of firepower. People are out here trying to grab that jersey.
Yeah, and I did see some other NRS teams mentioning the names of these riders too. We've got Oliver's Racing in there as well. They're one of the dominant teams racing out on the National Road Series here in Australia too. So Ben Van Dam races also in the NRS series. He had a really good win actually, 80 kilometers solo. Sorry, wasn't the win. Pulled up second, someone bridged across the gap. So Van Dam, as we're following now, had a solo breakaway of 80 kilometers in total. Was tremendous, torrential rain and horrible weather for that stage that he was away. I was in tour of Great South Coast here in Victoria just of last week. So I actually coach Ben, so I give him a little bit of a recovery time, and I put this on his radar as one of his sort of little bit of a leg opener again after having a bit of a recovery week.
Sounds good. So be watching out for that. I have a feeling we might have a little bit of a secret favorite out there for Mr. Westman. If he is coaching this individual, gave him a rest week just specifically for this one. We do have Emma Elias from Innovation here up toward the front now. Van Dam now, as we are seeing up toward the front. Nero KOM making his way, it looks like 308 watts or so. But the women now, they're just about to kick off. Let's go and see how that start is going as they are heading out on course. We saw it looks like there are about, we'll have to see, I believe there's about 30 women jumping in here. We do see C. Taylor, actually. Carly's out there, 4.1 watts per kilogram coming from her. Now we are seeing Aerosmith now up toward the front. It is going to be, it looks like Awesome Brink and Whitelaw. Watch out for Vicky Whitelaw. Innovation at the front, 166 beats per minute. G. Whitehouse is there as well. Lots of strong women showing up for the race today. And it looks like the pack is starting already to form at the front here. A couple of women now falling off immediately too. It looks like making that chase will be Carly Taylor, actually. They're 5.3 watts per kilogram. M. Griffiths there 1 second back too. So definitely going to have a little bit of work cut out for Tenfara there for AHDR. 4 seconds back. I'm not sure she's going to see the front end of this race again as Feder and Hill going to try and grab her wheel and maybe work together to get back on terms though. But 20 women it looks like or so in and amongst the group right now. Carly Taylor there, able to get back on terms, makes her way right up toward the front now. What do you think here amongst the riders here? I know Vicky, super strong. Mm-hmm. Of course, Carly, stronger rider. Any other names sticking out to you here today amongst the women?
I thought I'd probably see the name of Crystal Simpson in here as well. Usually rides the women's Aussie Hump Day ride on a Tuesday night. And also Michelle Crick. So maybe they might have been gapped back a little bit earlier there, but definitely riders that definitely are very experienced with Zwift. So yeah, hopefully we see some other names in there like Crystal and Michelle pop up as well into this front group.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see if that does end up happening here. But G. Whitehouse is out there now leading things out. Aerosmith there as well. See Aerosmith, 2.9 watts per kilogram. Looks like the main group has been formed. And it looks like Coxsett here at 2.8 watts per kilogram. 12 women up toward the front end of this group. Tenfara here trying to get back on terms. 3.8 watts per kilogram. And Lise and Feder. They might be able to do so. Looks like they were caught off guard though. You know, maybe not quite as experienced in the Zwift racing, or we're not prepared for how fast the start was going to be, as we do know it is full-on MTB or cyclocross type style races that usually catch riders out like this was. So we'll see if they can close things down. We saw in the New Zealand race plenty of gaps that were closed down pretty quickly. So if they do start looking at each other at the front end of this race, we might see things close back down. But Carly Taylor here up toward the front now, 4.2 watts per kilogram, trying to keep things quick, not want anybody to get back onto the pace just now, Wes.
Yeah, and coming across also in the chat, it looks like there's a fair bit of smackdown happening as well in the men's hard start. Keith Leonard saying 430 watt average for the first 5 minutes. Ouch. So I'm pretty sure Keith is racing and typing as well at the same time. So these riders out here as watching this live stream and commenting at the same time as racing in this race. So pretty impressive there. And I'm sure Carly will probably want to keep that pace high in the women's there to sort of make sure that those early bunches, even if they do catch back up, that they have to work for it.
Yeah, we are seeing in the women's race that there's definitely getting Grupo Compacto. But yeah, Keith is chatting through here. If you do want to cheat as well, chat as well. No cheating. No cheating. Chat as well. You can go ahead and do so. We are seeing Shane Miller is in there as well. Let's go Team AHDR coming from Crystal Simpson. We are seeing way to play favorites there. Shane coming from Ian Tuck. Pat Shaw coming through as well, saying Liam White riding from our bike store in Ballarat today. So that's pretty cool. If you want to interact with the chat, go ahead and do so by bringing in your questions and comments over at the Facebook post. I am also watching the Mixer channel for any questions that might come through over there. Yes, we are watching the chat at both places. Thanks a lot for your questions coming through there. OG Badfish, I do see you over at the broadcast on Mixer. So let's jump back into the men's race, though, as they are heading into the ruins, heading on over toward the volcano for their first climb in just a moment. All back together. It looks like Grupo Compacto at this point. Not too much of a break. Let's see if they were able to Oliver's racing here with R. Dever here, but see if they were able to come back together to have over 80 riders. It does look like M. Hodges, M. Peddle, as well as C. Lewis here, all 47 seconds back. The only place I see this coming back together, and this is actually 60 plus at this point, riders at 62nd place or back. So there was another break. I have a feeling that took place on that S-turn climb, where it's a little bit of a 1% to 2% gradient, and there is that little bit of a kick around toward the sprint banner. Usually at that point, because of how Zwift works, kind of like it's like being on a crit course, when you come around the corner and you can kick and you can lose a wheel. A lot of times that is the way that people will try and get away at those points. So I have a feeling that is where that took place. At the back here, we have R. Green from Team AHDR, as well as Cridland and the Zwift kit hanging out the back, playing it pretty smart at this point, actually. So now you don't want to be too far back, though, Wes. If you can't see what's happening at the front, usually you can get cut off guard.
Before you know it, there's a little bit of a gap open up, and then that domino effect, which starts to come into play, of everyone having to lift it up a little bit, and sometimes one of those riders may snap. The rubber band snaps, and then you have a gap, and then you have a chase. So you might actually have to do an effort as if you're attacking off the front. We see a lot of power-ups being popped early here as well, Nathan, trying to get rid of them because they're about to come around and probably come into that banner and get another power-up. So they're making use of those power-ups now. So these are knowledgeable riders using those power-ups now, aren't they, Nathan?
Yeah, I do see a lot. Most of the power-ups I do see power-ups right now are feather power-ups or drafting power-ups. I think these riders are looking for the arrow power-up. Let's go ahead and take a little chat, though, actually, about what power-ups are all about for those who are unfamiliar. There are power-ups out on Zwift that you do gain each time you go through any kind of banner. You go through a start-finish banner, you go through a lap banner, you go through a KOM banner, you go through a sprint banner. You are able to gain one of these power-ups you're seeing here on the left side of the screen. The small bonus power-up is 15% experience, or 15 points of experience. The large is 250. Those will get you more cosmetic or even bonus equipment out on Zwift, actually, by opening up new levels. Every time that you hit a new level, you get a new piece of equipment. There's other ways to get equipment as well. That's the main way, though. You can get faster and faster bikes, actually, or wheels, or other parts that are more cosmetic parts for your avatar by getting more experience. So early on in Zwift, a lot of times getting those is super important. Then there is the Aero Boost, the strongest power-up out on Zwift. It increases your aerodynamics, decreases the drag on your avatar for 30 seconds. And the decrease is so great that your speeds can get very, very high. It is the power up to have, especially in a sprint situation. You can get away so easily. And if you do not have one coming into a sprint with this kind of a pack, you most likely are not going to be taking the W. The draft boost is kind of a counter to any kind of an attack. You do have an increased draft effect for 30 seconds. And then the lightweight is a reduced weight for 15 seconds. If you are a climber and you don't think you can hit that sprint hard enough, maybe the lightweight feather power-up is one that you do want to use, like on the volcano climb. That last 10% gradient or so for about 30 seconds, good place to use that. So that's what power-ups are about. You gain them every time you head through a banner, KOM banner, sprint banner, or a lap banner, start-finish banner. So that's what the power-ups are about. A little bit of RNG out there. And I think, Wes, like you were saying, they were definitely looking to have a different power-up than those lightweight ones or the draft ones. Whenever you see people using those early on in the race, they're looking for that arrow. And once you have an arrow, usually people hang on to it till the end.
Yeah, you either hang on that to the end or you use it at a crucial moment. If you're not confident of out sprinting someone, you may be able to use that to jump onto an attack that's going or try and launch a move yourself. So some of these riders will be definitely making use of those aero power-ups at their key moments that they choose to. So that's where tactics and team role and team play come into account as well. So you may not be the fastest or strongest rider there, but those aero power-ups will give you an advantage, and they may also help your teammate. We aren't quite in the production of Zwift giving a power-up to your teammate. That would be the next level, but hopefully something like that comes in the future. Because I'm thinking of it as, I've been the domestique in the racing scene. I've gone up and give Simon Gerrans and guys like that a bottle or gel or whatever they need. that'd be cool if that could cross over into Zwift racing. But for the moment, these power-ups still do have a great effect, and you can still use them to help your teammates. It looks like Dinesh George has pulled the pin. He was on early there, and I can see him walking around here in the headquarters now. So looks like the heat is too hot for our Zwift employee. Dinesh has pulled the pin early, but he may have been up there with Kieran, who's actually in the studio as well here in the spin studio. He's here racing too from Rafa. So he might have done a bit of a lead out. Looks like the boys are laughing in the background there. Might have done a bit of a lead out for Kieran, getting him up in that front bunch.
I did see the Zwift HQ banner there, and I was wondering who was out there. So good to see that he was out there racing. But I think we're going to have a little chat here with one of our analysts, actually, Jonathan Nobbett, also Zwift Productions, live streaming productions manager over in coming to us from Edinburgh, actually. So, Jonathan Nobbett, what's happening with a few of these riders out on course?
Hey, Nathan. Yes, so 2 riders that we're very familiar with in Zwift racing. We obviously had the Australian KISS eCrit finals back last year in Melbourne, Australia. And 2 of the riders there, we had Aaron Dunn here. We can see currently showing in 19th position, but he's in that front group of 48 riders. Aaron Dunn, 37 years of age, pretty light rider. Got some great power already, averaging 300 watts in the first 15 minutes of the race. And we see that as we're coming up to the volcano climb, he's got a great time of 6 minutes 57 with an average power of 332. Now that's 6:57. That was like, that's a really good time. But I think we'll probably see him break that today in this race. As I think it was 6 minutes 45, which was the fastest in a lot smaller group in the New Zealand race just before. But another rider we need to look out for, one of the lightest riders out on course, nice little doggy avatar there, from Anthony Ciano, the Zwift kid, 27 years of age, 57 kilograms. Now, Anthony also raced in the KISS eCrit finals back last year in September. He was a wildcard entry from the west side of Australia, but also a similar time to Aaron, 6:52, with a bit of lower power. So Anthony, another rider we need to keep an eye out. It's a young rider, light rider, very strong as well. And the riders that I think, Wes, a lot about Aaron and Anthony. I think that's right, yes?
Yeah, definitely. These two were very dominant, and in the eCrit series last year, I mean, Anthony Ciano, the Zwift kid, was lucky enough to come through. Pat Shaw went with an early sprint at like 800 meters out, and Zwift kid come from about 4th, I think, position to come through and actually steal 2nd place, with Aaron Dunn taking the win on that occasion.
Yeah, so we are looking at Zwift Kid here, riding for Vision Cycling. Lots of Vision out there, actually, today. We are seeing a bunch of those kits, so I'd be watching out for them. Definitely looking to be a presence out there and grab that jersey. Always a big present for them in the Land Down Under races. Let's jump into a little bit of the women's racing, though, as they are heading their way over to the volcano before the men do make their way up and over to the top. It does look like there has been another break, and Coxart, as well as Tanfara and Les and Feder here, are about 50 seconds back or so. So it looks like she's going to be most likely making her way back to that group and working with them throughout the rest of the race. But it looks like up toward the front end of the race here. Whitelaw from Innovation, 161 beats per minute as they make their way into the volcano for the first time. Whitehouse is there as well. Seaman, it will be DM. Rose, Ranson, Griffith, Carly Terre, Awesome Brick, A Booth, and Roper. Aerosmith still in there at the back holding down. So it is 11 women, it looks like, or so, that have made this lead group out of the 20 that have jumped into here. So it is still Grupo Compactor, though, at the front here. We will see who is going to be the strong women, though, out there today as they head toward the climb in just a moment here. It does look like Booth now 3.0 watts per kilogram, just trying to position herself, 184 beats per minute currently, so not allowing this group to get away. A lot of Tron bikes out there, though. Wes, let's talk a little bit about that Tron bike. I mean, why are there people with glowing wheels, and why do they want to use them?
Well, certainly anyone that you see with glowing wheels, they've done a fair bit of riding on Zwift. I think it's 50,000 vertical meters you've got to climb to unlock that bike. So it certainly takes a lot of effort. And the reason why, not only does it look pretty out on course, and you can change the colors, as we can see a couple of pink and blue Tron bikes there now, you can pimp that up and like we were saying earlier, Nathan, you can change your avatar. I'm sure a few of them have spent a bit of time, knowing there's a live stream on today, getting their avatar just right. But those Tron bikes are the fastest game in bike as well. So aerodynamics have a bit of a play in that as well, Nathan.
They do. And so the Tron bike is the fastest bike out on Zwift. It is definitely earned, though, 50,000 meters of climbing. Now, we are seeing a little bit of attack here from Kay Lewis. This is the pointy end of the climb as things are definitely starting to heat up. We are seeing Van Dam Nero here now trying to make a little bit of a break. Fraser there going as well, and it is a 2-second gap. Now you know the pressure is really on. It was kind of grouped up, so we're leaving it alone for a little while, but it looks like the gaps are starting to form. There is about 15 riders or so trying to get away. A little bit of a gap here between Riley and Norton there. Can Jay Riley get back on terms? Yes, he does. Coming from Innovation. Herfoss is there as well. They're almost up to the top now. One more loop around, it looks like. Dunn has made it. Lionberg, it looks like. Roberts here sitting pretty now as well. This was a prediction. Cam Roberts would be one of the favorites, and at about that half to 3/4 point, now the kicks are coming. And you said this is the way you make a climb. This is the way you make an attack. You keep it chill until that last 1/4 of the climb or so, Wes.
Absolutely, and this is where you want to start to lay it in here now, because it's already been at threshold, and then if you actually go up well over that threshold with an attack sort of move here, like Cameron Roberts is displaying right here now, he's very familiar with this sort of technique, having done the E-Crit a lot during the last few weeks lead-in as well. And also Zach Johnson was very dominant with attacks during the E-Crits as well. So another person to lay the boots in when it goes uphill. He's not a very a heavy rider as well, quite a little bit of a climber, and a young rider, I think only at 18 or 17 years of age. So very strong rider coming up from Tasmania, those roads that Richie Port rides around Scottsdale Loop. I think Zach has joined him on a couple of occasions around those loops. So certainly some strong riding early on here and establishing. Also the Kay Lewis, as you gave the shout out to, that is actually the rider that Dinesh George sacrificed himself for to make sure he made in the front group. So Kay Lewis is actually in HQ here racing as well.
This is all the big names actually here. Herfoss is there. We're seeing Roberts, Van Dam, Johnson, Richards is in there. White has made it as well. Lewis, Oliver's racing there, it looks like, with Dever here, Dever. And then the Zwift kid, Johnson there. I mean, all the names we see every week. B. Norton trying to get back on terms, though we're seeing Jay Cameron and then Herfoss 1 second back. 15, top 15 at this point. I think it's going to come back together and form a larger group, but you can already see who has the kick when it comes down to those final 2 last climbs. You can see who might be getting away, who might be a part of that bunch sprint. I think we're going to have a similar situation, though, to what we saw in the UK National Championship. So many have shown up today. 142 riders have shown up to try and grab that National Championship jersey in this men's race. And 7 seconds up now at this point, we might have a group of 20 going off the front. With that many riders in that group, maybe it won't come back together. You know, a lot of times it comes back together because there's only 3 or 4 or 5. But with this many and any kind of consistency as a pull-through at the front, this might be a selection now.
This is definitely a selection, Nathan. And with looking at the names in here, I mean, you've probably got every name that you could think of that could probably, you can't really call out someone that would be the clear winner out of this pack. There's that many names in here. Like Troy Herfoss has had one crack already, more than one occasion actually, at winning the in real life national championships. Was actually off the front solo with Luke Durbridge for a short period, and then went solo the last part of the race in the men's national championships back in January. So Troy Herfoss is now after his virtual jersey on Zwift, and he's certainly a favourite. But you've got Ollie Jones, sorry, not Ollie Jones. You've got also Cameron Roberts, who's very experienced. Aaron Dunn, Zwift kid. Lewis in there as well. Ben Van Dam. So thank you, man. Ben Van Dam is in there. He will certainly be laying the boots in after I give him a recovery week as well. So some key names in here. There's so many in here, Nathan, that you can't actually call a clear favorite at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty, but we definitely have a breakaway at this point, about 25 riders over. So we are getting some questions through about the course, And the route that we're going to be doing, we did a little bit of a video preview, but here is the statistics on it, the actual stats on the course. We do have 3 laps for the men, 2 laps for the women. Total distance for the men will be 42.6 miles or 68.4 kilometers. Total elevation climb 2,007 or 612 meters. For the women, it will be 28.4 miles and 45.6 kilometers. And total elevation there, 338 feet or 408 meters. And that is all on the Watopia volcano climb. Each lap, they're doing 432 feet to the top of that climb from sea level to the top there. So it's definitely a difficult course, that's for sure. Very tactical course though as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the climb though with the women, as there are definitely some attacks taking place. I am seeing a Booth as well as Ranson here off the back as the attacks have started. Roper is here with Whitelaw. Vicky Whitelaw, 5.3 watts per kilogram actually, 174 beats per minute. Whitehouse trying to pace that down, but it is a 7-second gap now at this point. E. Roper here now trying to get on terms, 184 beats per minute. Jay Seaman as well as DM Ross. This is a solid group here that's trying to make the chase, but Vicky looks to be walking away at this point. We'll see if they can bring her back into the fold, but Carly Taylor here just sitting on. This string out amongst the women now is saying that there is no holding hands. That's for sure. They're definitely putting everything they got into this climb right now. About halfway up, they're at that point where they can group up a little bit because it flattens out a little bit, and it does pay off to conserve. But this is make it or break it, it looks like, for Carly as well as Ossenbrink.
Absolutely. Like you said, Nathan, there's no holding hands here. It looks like the campfire's been lit, but they're not bringing out the guitar for Kumbaya. They're racing really hard and fast here now. Carly is going to have to do a little bit of work here now and make sure that that gap doesn't increase, so she keep it in striking range. And I guess she's hoping now to try and conserve some energy as well, that the other riders sort of ease up a bit and they can roll back on here. And it looks like they're working together nicely too.
Yeah, it does look like they're working together pretty well here. 4.4 watts per kilogram from Carly. 3 seconds up to DM Rose as well. Griffiths is there, 4 seconds up. It looks like a solid group. But Vicky is just walking away. She is all in on this climb now. 170 beats per minute. And it looks like Roper here trying to lead the pack out, get a little bit of instigation. Come on, girls, let's go. Get to the top here, close this down. Now, Vicky might be using a serious match at this point with one less lap though than what the men are doing. You can throw down a few more matches earlier on. You can risk a little bit more earlier on, and this might pay off.
It may pay off, risking a little bit earlier on. Looks like she's trying to actually establish a little bit of a break clearly here now, so pushing those other riders, obviously knowing that Carly's off the back here as well. So yeah, these riders here, it looks like, who's that going past? Is that Whitelaw's going past now? Also getting a feed from Pat Shaw saying down to 24 riders left. 22 Dunn is saying riders left in the men's as well. So they are laying down the watts right now as well as the women here.
Yeah, we are seeing, it looks like Whitelaw actually bringing it down to 0 watts per kilogram for just a moment there. Just about to come into that final loop up and over around the volcano. The watts are starting to fluctuate a lot though, so she might start to be, feeling that effort. She's trying to get this gap, trying to walk away, but 6.1 watts per kilogram from Roper. They're 11 seconds back now. Griffiths now, along with a large group, but Ossenbrink and Aerosmith, not sure it's going to be happening for them. Taylor here now has to let Ossenbrink go and close the gap solo. Not sure she's going to be able to do it, though. 3.5 watts per kilogram. It looks like she's going to be in no woman's land for the rest of the race, perhaps, unless she can throw down something like Pithy did on that downhill. And actually took the W in the New Zealand race here, but in the last one. But 13 seconds up, Vicky. We'll see if she can hold on to this. It's a strong group of women behind. Might be a little much too early, but only time will tell on this downhill.
Yeah, and she'll have to make a bit of a reassessment as well. If it is coming back quick, maybe just ease up. I'd certainly be easing up and going back into the group and probably trying it. She knows she's clearly the strongest, so I'd say go a little bit later because it's 15 kilometers in, still a long way to go, and that's a long time trial by yourself. But if she's confident in her ability, she's sitting at 170 heart rate, nice 90 cadence. And back here, the other riders here look like they're at that 176 heart rate as well. We're looking at Seaman here Also, Alison, I think it was it was saying that she will close that gap because Jill Seaman is a good climber and she can close that gap. So, but it looks like we're going to cross back over to the men's race now, which has been hotly contested, and it's down. The field is whittling down. Pat Shaw's giving us feed on that and saying that it's down to 22 riders or close to 20 riders now. So Keith Leonard also giving us some chat earlier on while racing. I'm sure he's probably not right now after that last climb. It sounded like some fireworks went down.
We are seeing Nick White hanging out in the race here, actually. And that's a familiar name, actually, to me. I've seen him around the Australian scene. What's up with Nick? I mean, he's out there. He's made the lead group. Obviously a strong rider.
Nick and also Liam, his younger brother, I think it is. So Nick actually made the Zwift Academy. Was with Ollie Jones, one of those top three. So there was 2 New Zealanders and 1 Australian. So Nick was the Australian from Oliver's Racing.
Gotcha. And so he is riding for Oliver's Racing out there as well. Watch out for Nick. He's got the Team Dimension data kit on there, it looks like, in game right now. So it looks like riding in the 27, finished the 2017 Zwift Academy, obviously, as a finalist. Top 3 right alongside Ollie Jones. I remember seeing Nick actually in the Team Camp video, actually. So good to see him out there racing amongst the riders. 30 minutes in, 2 laps to go. And we've got a group of 22 on the front. It does look like we got a little bit more analytics coming on through from Mr. Jonathan Noblet over in the Edinburgh studio. Sounds like he's got some stuff to chat about here on Chop Racers, Cameron Roberts and Keith Leonard. So let's go ahead and hear about that.
Yeah, how you doing, Nathan? So, 2 of the races that we see quite a lot in one of the community races that happens out on Zwift on Thursdays are Cameron Roberts and Keith Leonard. So Cameron Roberts, quite a young racer. We've chatted to him a few times in the previous live broadcasts. 24 years of age, light rider. Some great power already, and we can look at his segment efforts here. They just went up the climb. He's got a 6:30 feet up the climb, and some of his sprint efforts as well. We can have a look at 21 seconds on the Watopia forward sprint. They won't be racing that sprint today, but it gives us a good little effort because the distance and the power needed is similar to the final effort down the hill, down towards Ocean Boulevard to the finish line. So let's have a quick look at some of his power performance. His 1 minute power is 514 watts, 5 minute power 412, and 20 minute power 358. So let's compare that to Keith Leonard, a little bit of older racer, also a bit heavier, but he's also got quite higher powers, which means he still gets a good watt per kilogram average as well. So he's got a 1 minute power of 590 and a 20 minute power of 414. So we should be able to keep him well on the climbs, but if we look at that 1 minute power, a bit higher than Cameron Roberts. So on the sprints, we might see Keith edge him out a bit forward as well. But Chop Racers, A category, trying to beat some of the other racers as well. Wes will be able to explain clearly like where the chop comes from. So Wes, you'll be able to kind of explain that a bit more and the community races that we have out on Zwift as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Johnny.
Yeah,
and Keith Leonard is one to watch out for in a sprint. And Wes, why don't you tell us why?
Yes. Keith Leonard, so he's very dominant in a lot of the racing, especially the handicap race, which he's won a few times now. So with that, it's a community run race by Ben Gove on a Thursday evening. These races are graded, so you nominate your grade, and with that, you are then handicapped a time position to chase each bunch down. So if you're a steady rider at the 1.8 to 2 watts kilo, then you go into D grade. And then as the watts go up, obviously, then you have time gaps for those bunches between. So essentially, it's a cat and mouse race, and one that Keith has won a few times as well, as the group has to work together. So it is a good community group where even no matter what level of ability you're at, you can have a chance to win. So Keith is experienced with that, and also well experienced with the E-Crit also on a Tuesday night. So Keith is definitely saying that he's excited to be racing today, but is in a little under the weather and has been sick the last couple of weeks. So under the weather, but he's still come out for the national championships as you would, because these races do take this pretty seriously. A lot of them have been heavily involved in the community races and counting down to this with national championships.
Speaking of Keith, I think me and Keith went head to head actually a few weeks back actually in a sprint. He must have been under the weather still. He was just under the weather. That's all that happened there. So, Turfall's here, 3.8 watts per kilogram. Oliver now on the front now, 6.7 as you can see. And 163 beats per watt, or Oliver racing with Deaver, excuse me. And it looks like Deaver might be giving a little bit of a dig here. I mean, 6.6 to 7, consistent over the top of a climb with 3 seconds and gaining. I think people are kind of watching him walk away and say, nah, that's not going anywhere. But with that Oliver's Racing next to his name, this may be a threat.
Might be also. And obviously with Nick White sitting pretty back there as well, is able to just follow any moves that go across. So could be a little bit of a maneuver here to also knowing the likes of some of these other riders will want to try and make a break to actually go out alone here at a nice threshold, and then you don't have to do that jump across, Nathan, to try and be in that breakaway. So maybe a little bit of tactic there as well, so you don't have to actually go into those true orange numbers, but to sit at a nice high tempo. Looks like he's sitting at like 4.8, close to that 5 watts per kilo. And I'm sure that he's probably hoping that a couple and not the whole bunch, because if the whole bunch comes across, then it's a bit of a wasted effort. But if a few riders come and start to establish a break, he's going to flow on with that and enjoy the ride with those riders that come across.
You can see the pack there, just keeping him within sights. Now M. Miller making his way to the front, 4.6 watts per kilogram. If they do that consistently, you know, I've tried here time and time again. It's always a popular place to make a little bit of a break, because what happens is you come up out of that underground, and it's this 3 to 5% gradient. It's very quick, 30 seconds maybe at the most, and everybody kicks. And then everybody wants to slow down. You know, everybody wants that reprieve. And if you didn't have to kick too hard and you take the speed that you gain there and you go ahead and you attack out of that, a lot of times you can get this distance, but it feels amazing for about 10 seconds. And then you find out that the pack is on a flat. They're all together still. Nobody really got put into any difficulty because of that climb. And almost always I get caught, almost every time, on this S-turns. As soon as it goes uphill just a little bit and anybody wants to give any kind of effort, this is usually where I find myself struggling on the back because of my attack out of the underground, actually. So, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to be happening with our Deaver here now, as they're about to be caught. We'll see if he's any kind of spot or bother. I don't think so. 155 beats per minute. I think Deaver's going to be just fine, but the group didn't really let him go anywhere.
No, I didn't let him go anywhere, but again, could have been something in it there, Nathan, if a few other riders maybe have taken that approach also by the rider of Scott, who would do those sneaky sort of accelerations, not into the orange numbers, but would sort of roll off the front. And obviously once that was established, then would start to get up in that 5 watts per kilo sort of range. So we look like everyone else is cruising along here now. The heart rates seem to be going down back again to that 150, out of that 180 to 190 range, and even 200. We saw some of the riders there, though. So it is a nice group here now, and it looks like they're going to cruise along. Also, I'm going to have to call for a water bottle myself, Nathan. I'm getting quite dry, so I'm going to have to call for Dinesh to grab my water bottle, which I've left outside of the room during the crossover. So, everyone's going to need a drink, and it's going to be really interesting about hearing. I'm so sure some of these riders are able to actually type and race. I'm sure Zwift Kid is probably able to type and race. Let us know, what was your setup? How many bottles did you prepare? How many gels? How many towels? Thank you, Dinesh. And what else was your prep leading into this? I mean, some of these riders would be taking it very serious. So I'd like to hear that on the chat or on the banter. Or if not, if you're at home, how do you prepare for your Zwift racing?
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching the chat. If you do want to interact with the broadcast, we can bring your questions, comments directly into the broadcast. You can also show us your Zwift setup, show us any kind of media that you bring in. If you have pictures or any kind of media that is of your in real life racing, all that can be tweeted at us at Z Community Live, at Z Community Live over on Twitter. You can also comment, obviously, over on the Facebook. We'll bring that on in. We are also watching the chat over at Mixer. If you have any questions or comments, we'll go ahead and bring them in as soon as possible. But looking at the race here, it's fairly calm at this point amongst the Reds men's race. not too many getting dropped off at just this point, but it is 21 racers now, 22 racers, excuse me, in this front group. So since the first time over the climb, things have not changed too much. It does seem like they are going a little faster in the Australian National Championships, obviously with a much larger group. I think they're going to finish a little bit quicker and maybe have a little bit easier race on their hands because of the fast points are going to be faster, though. So I shouldn't say easier.
Yeah.
The attacks are going to be that much harder, the efforts, but the ability to sit in and conserve energy is going to be that much more, though, too. Very different race than what we saw in the New Zealand Championships.
Yeah, very different race unfolding here. And also starting with such a large group like that. And now it's being whittled down. Even now it's being whittled down. It is a substantial larger group than the New Zealand Championships. But we're getting some comments now. What I gave the request to hear what people's prep was. Aaron Dunn is saying 2 bottles, 2 gels, and his prep leading into it was NFL fantasy drafting this morning. So everyone's got their way. If you're unsure at NFL, it's the National Football League of Australia.
Wait, so you guys have NFL too? Wait a second.
Yes.
You have NFL over there, but it's the National Football League for Australia, and we have, it's like, I didn't even know that. It's named the same thing. Gotcha.
Well, it may be even American. I'm not even sure. I know there is rugby and that sort of thing. I'm an AFL, Australian rules football fan, so I'm unsure actually to what the NFL. Like, I just assumed it was a league here in Australia. I'm not sure. Some people probably be shaking their heads or scratching their heads to why I don't know that. But I'm follow the AFL, and I'll be actually going to a game with my good mate Andrew Paget, who's racing as well. Won't be up in the point into this, but Andrew will be racing there, listening to the stream right now. He's going to take me across the football, and he's got me some free tickets, so I'll take them up.
Sounds good. And Aaron Dunn is letting us know, no, it's American football. So NFL for him, he's been watching some
I've got
American
it wrong
football.
with
So.
a few other people. NRL, that's go National Rugby League. That's what I meant.
Anthony Porsche coming on through here saying, early morning race, just water and gels during the race. Otherwise, get some fuel in early, as it's always full-on racing and hard to keep food down if you don't get it in about 2 hours before the race. And Anthony Porsche knows all about racing out on Zwift. He's been a part of the racing community from early on, riding for Vision Cycling. He's been taking a break from racing recently, but good to see him hanging out in the broadcast. So there's a lot of chatter, actually. Look what you started was about this whole AFL NFL thing. It's really starting to kick off now over in the chat.
West side versus east side here. Oh dear, I kicked it off, didn't I? But we are getting a lot of riders as well, giving us their setups and how they lead into races. So thanks for that feedback. And also, it looks like now that the heart rates are gone up here a little bit as well. Anthony's at 182. Actually, Anthony has a naturally high heart rate as well. So that's not unusual for him to see him up around that 180 mark.
Yeah, that is pretty high there, actually. But yeah, I think he does beat up into the 190s, 195 actually.
I'm pretty sure for E-Cred he averaged close to 190 average or something. It was really high. I'm not sure how many coffees he's had, but I'm sure he's had a few. It looks like we've got Liam White here as well, the brother of Nick White, I'm pretty sure. So also to add, Pat Shaw is the coach of Nick White. So bit of coaching rivalry. Let's see who wins out of the Coaches Cup, with Pat having Nick and I assume Liam as well, and me having Ben Van Dam here in this pack.
Van Dam versus the White brothers. I feel like we're watching some sort of 90s or 80s movie here now at this point with the Van Dam and the Zwift kid. We're full on into blood sport here, it sounds like. As I try to find the group, I think we went back just a little bit too far here, but we're back up with Herfoss here. He is with the main group now at this point. But Zwift kid does beat out at 205 beats per minute, actually. So definitely beats like a butterfly. Yes. Has quite a bit to work with at this point. But Herfoss here, all the way down to 141. Look at the difference between the stroke volumes of these hearts.
Can you see that, Nathan? I think it's Troy Herfoss' avatar actually had a straw in his mouth. I don't know if you saw that.
No, there was no straw. What?
He was spraying
I'm
through a
being
straw.
trolled.
He looks like
I'm being trolled. I'm full on being trolled by the Australians at this point. Completely being trolled by the Australians at this point. So just so everybody knows, if you do want to interact with the broadcast on Twitter, I'm being told that it is actually hashtag Zwift Nationals, hashtag Zwift Nationals in order to interact with the broadcast. Our productions managers letting us know now at this point it is changed up from our usual Z Community Live. So Zwift Nationals, hashtag Zwift Nationals. You can bring your media on it. If you do have a picture, I will see it immediately over here to bring it on into the broadcast. As we are waiting for the men to start their next climb, let's real quick head on over to the women's race and see how things are playing out. It does look like it has been whittled down a little bit again. But Vicky Whitelaw, 54 seconds off the front right now, 4.5 watts per kilogram. She is definitely TT'ing. Jay Seaman here, White House now 4.2. I thought for sure they were going to bring her back. I think they had her within about 20 seconds at one point, but at this point it looks like it might be said and done. Whitelaw here, one more climb to go, and she will be taking down that national championship jersey for 1 year for Australia out on Zwift. So 4.8 watts become 5.0 now, minute 4. Minute 4, I mean, it's a good gap, but if there is any kind of kick from one of these women behind here who might be able to throw down for 4.5 to 5 watts per kilogram for a while, we'll see what can happen. But Vicky, I don't know. This is a crazy effort coming from Whitelaw right now from Innovation now. Now the question is there Zada approval? The question also is going to be, does she have the national governing body connected to her Zwift account? You do have to have that in order to take the W out there today. So if you are outside the limits of the Zwift power limits, or you do not have your governing body connection, you will not be able to take the W for the national championship jersey. So everybody did need to have the national governing body connected to their Zwift account in order to take the national championship. And that will all be official after the fact. So we'll have provisional results after the race. Zwift will come on in and filter out who actually has or does not have. And the winner, just the winner, has to have that connection to their national governing body. If and everybody else lies where they will, but the winner, if you do win, that only that can be. So it does look like for these women here, still trying to make that chase, but Vicky able to stay away at this point. The men are just starting to climb now, it looks like, at this point. So let's go ahead and see how things are happening here. Kay Lewis now making his way to the front, 5.4 watts per 182 Vs per minute. Cam Roberts, this is one we've been talking about. Second climb. I think he might try and get away. You know, Roberts, definitely a TT specialist, I believe. He can throw down some high wattage for a long time. We've seen him get away before and stay away. Even on the hardest courses to stay away, Wes. I think Cam Roberts is one to watch out for, not give any slack out on course.
No, he certainly loves going for those long range breakaways. He's done it numerous times in e-crits, throughout this season. So he's certainly one that you wouldn't let go. But I don't think with the firepower we have back in this group here that he would be let go, because everyone will be reacting quite quickly, and Zach Johnson is well aware of Roberts, because he's actually joined him on a few occasions as well out in front, and then Roberts has actually gone on solo. So these riders here will certainly keep an eye on him, and it looks like he's liking to be at the front here as well. Like a lot of these other riders that looks like are happy to sit back. Troy Herfoss has been very quiet, so a few of the other comments are saying that he's riding quite smart. I think he's riding quite smart as well. We haven't seen him touch the front, and you don't need to touch the front until that last 50 meters of the race, really. I mean, Troy Herfoss, it will certainly probably do it before that, but it is a tactics game here as well. So if you can conserve and you have a good amount of firepower, which Troy certainly has, then this could really work out well for him.
We are seeing a couple of comments coming through actually about being Norton. Brad Norton is in this group, and a couple are saying they're just waiting for him to make an attack and ride away from everybody else, actually. So it does look like that is a prediction coming from Pat Shaw. I know, was it? Yeah, Pat Shaw actually saying, waiting to see long range from Brad Norton while the others watch each other. So we'll have to see if that does end up happening. Pat with a lot of chatter, actually. And great to hear a mini crowd in Ballarat store in support of Liam White. This is pretty cool, actually. Absolutely loving that. Shout out to the Ballarat store. Good to see you guys tuning in and gals over there tuning in and cheering everybody on. Looking through a couple more of the comments, we are seeing Matt Yankow saying, I want to see another wild finish like in the NZ race, New Zealand race. Good comment coming through from Joshua Sherwood. This is actually for those who are wondering, why do you need to be registered with the national body? Which is a great question, actually, as a newer rule in the world of Zwift racing. The national body registration takes care of anti-doping regulations. It takes care of a lot of different things, actually. There's all kinds of stuff that needs in real life verification about the information that's being put into the game. So if you have that, it's a very easy way for verification of all the information that's being put in. And then we say, yes, the national body is the outside third-party source that sees that this is a real person in real life. And and as well as puts the rules on their license for how they race in real life. And now out on Zwift for the national championship to take the W. Just for those who take the win. It's only for the one who's trying to take the W. But great comment there coming from Joshua Sherwood. And it's really great to see Zwift taking steps like this, actually, to legitimize the efforts that people are putting out here. 142 people showing up looking to put down a serious effort, all the emotions, all of the intensity, all of the experience of racing that's taking place out here. Definitely looking for as much verification as people can possibly get. So I think it's a great move, Wes, for Zwift to make.
Yeah, it's certainly to verify these efforts going on out here and to make sure they are Australian or New Zealand resident and male or female as well. So a couple of things there to address, and that certainly clears things up. And it's certainly, like you said, Nathan, really legitimizes this racing and puts it into action to make sure that we've seen the likes of Ollie Jones go on to be racing at 2 a.m. in the morning because of Zwift, because otherwise he'd be back in New Zealand. But because of Zwift and winning the Zwift Academy, he was over racing at the Zwift National Championships from the other side of the world. So, the possibilities of Zwift for a talent ID program and also just a pathway for no matter what age you are to into the pro peloton for women and men is something that's pretty special.
Definitely super special and super huge opportunity, actually. Now looking through here, we are seeing Herfoss, actually. You were saying that we were going to be waiting for this moment for him, and there it is. He kicked into 10 watts per kilogram, used a feather power up 7.1 watts per kilogram. B. Johnson here trying to get back on turns. We can see that gap a little bit forming as we look down from the helicopter view here. There's the difference. It is about 10 meters. Will it go out any further? I'm not sure. A little bit of a group behind forming, trying to make that chase. Does look like the gap's being closed down by Van Dam. Johnson's there as well. It looks like Johnston and Johnson. Zach Johnson there. 8.7 watts per kilogram WP Taz closing it right on down. S. Richards now able to make it. Van Dam, Oliver racing with, and it looks like L. White there right on the pack. Cam Roberts sitting pretty, it looks like, keeping them within the sights. Okay, Lewis there.
And Lewis as well.
Leacock there as well.
Lewis was actually the one who instigated an early attack on that climb. We saw the comments from Pat saying that Lewis actually went solo for a little bit there early on in the climb. So Lewis stirring up. Lewis is actually in Zwift HQ here in Melbourne, racing it out on one of the new kickers, actually to the new Wahoo Kicker 18. So he's given that a test run, and he's certainly given his legs a test run as well. Zwift Kid back here as well. Is Zwift Kid a little bit off the back here?
Yeah, it's surprising.
A little bit off the back here.
Done as well.
Surprising. Yeah, Aaron did actually make the call out that he would probably be dropped this lap, he said in the comments, and I told him to attack. So I'm not sure whether he attacked, but I told him to attack then if he's going to get dropped. So, yeah, that's good. That's good that Wolfpack Taz do have Ben Van Dam up there. It looks like he was up around the wheels of Troy Herfoss and able to respond to that. So that's a great sign for the Coaches' Cup between me and Pat Shaw.
We are seeing the 7 seconds close down a little bit, but I'm not sure these boys are getting back on terms. These two, Aaron Dunn and Zwift Kid, Anthony Ciano, both good crit racers, but the second that climb got in, it looks like maybe unable to hang on to the pack here. We are seeing a cool little tweet coming on through from Johnny showing everybody how it's done. Go ahead and throw that hashtag Zwift Nationals into your photo over on Twitter. We'll be able to bring it right on. He's showing off the kits There's the South African, New Zealand, and Australian kits that are going to be given away. Awarding 6 on the day today. Total 1 to the fastest male and female out of each of the countries. So very cool photo there of the kits there. Thanks a lot, Johnny, for showing everyone how it's done. If you want to give us your photos of what is going on with your setup at home, you want to show us any kind of the podiums or racing that you have done, real life pics. It's always great to connect something real to the virtual world here. Norton now, though, as we are seeing, was able to make this lead group. And we're waiting for that attack that Shaw was talking about. We'll have to see if he's able to make that happen. Van Dam up toward the front here. And Johnson, 5.9 watts per kilogram. This is no joke of a descent for him, but maybe just a little kick to make sure he's on the front because it's only 137 beats per minute right now. Seems fairly calm, actually, Wes, at this point.
Yeah, it does seem fairly calm. And obviously the riders are probably... had that little tester up there. There are only 12 riders, I think, in this front bunch here now. So they've had that tester now, and they're going to come around for the final lap, and that is going to be when the real firepower comes out. No one's going to be holding back, and it's going to be interesting. Like I said, again, Nathan, after they make this climb, the riders that are together or at least gapped each other, after they get over the climb, is absolutely crucial that they push on with it, because that's where we saw the unlikely event of someone coming through and steam training it. Like we had in the Zwift New Zealand Nationals, come through and take that W from underneath the likes of Ollie Jones and some strong riders. Looked like Ollie was actually making sure that he didn't chase his companion down. Lawrence actually got that win over the top after being dropped on the climb and coming back. So keep that in mind, riders, if you're listening to the stream. If you are dropped, you never know. Don't give up, because it isn't over till you cross that finish line. So great to see, getting Lawrence getting that win for the New Zealand Championships.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how that ended up playing out. And I'm wondering if because Ollie didn't chase it, that's why Pithy was able to get away. I definitely think
that impacted the race. Smith there, you could see, was really keen for a sprint. And obviously, Ollie may have not been confident of beating Smith in the sprint, so he decided to let Lawrence take the win. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to get a little bit of feedback of what that is. If Ollie, if you are still up at 3 a.m. in the morning, let us know. Or probably let us know tomorrow. And
I would be surprised. I would not be surprised at all, actually, if he was up, because it's pretty hard to sleep after efforts like that. I know from personal experience. We do have a lot of questions coming through here, though. Alex Cornwall, this is a great question. When are U.S. National Championships? So the U.S. National Championships, as well as the whole Northern Hemisphere National Championships that qualify for having a national championships out on Zwift, which a qualification for the country is just simply based on the number of users in the country, and they take the top certain number of top countries, filter them out by having how many users are in that country. At a certain number, you get in and have a national championships. They take place during the winter. So we're doing the Southern Hemisphere winter. In their winter, their Zwift season, we have their national championships. And in the our winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, we have national championships for all the Northern Hemisphere countries. So that's what's going on. So that's why we're having South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand today. So that's a great question there. So in about 6 months from now, February 2019 is what I'm being told is the date, around the date for the Northern Hemisphere of the National Championships. We are seeing a couple of kicks now, though, or actually maybe just somebody falling off the pace here. This is actually surprising to see. Our Diva looked super strong, perhaps a little bit of a lapse or a dropout, but we're seeing 6.6 watts per kilogram. He was off the front a little bit on the first climb, maybe suffering a little bit from that, but looks like he's been able to close that down pretty quickly. Herfoss here is 3.7 now. And for those who are not familiar with Troy, you want to give us some background on Herfoss?
Yes, certainly. Troy Herfoss is leading actually the series for the Australian series for GP. So motorcycle racer, has been over in Japan a bit lately as well, racing internationally, but is leading the Australian GP series for that. So Troy loves riding his bike indoors and outdoors, and loves riding his motorbike as well. So Troy is certainly, like I said earlier in the stream, he was out solo in the national championships in the closing 2 laps of the race was with Luke Durbridge, and then went solo. So certainly was making some seasoned pros suffer in the national championships. And we actually were fortunate enough to have him along at a special event we did in Adelaide at the Rafa Clubhouse, temporary pop-up clubhouse in Adelaide, that he took part in actually a duathlon, running and riding, and actually went pretty well in that as well.
It's very multi-talented. It sounds like, as far as an athlete there, elite level all around. We are seeing another little kick here coming from, Van Dam was pushing 6 watts per kilogram. Now we are seeing our Deaver here up in that 6.45 watts per kilogram. 1 second up. S. Richards there, Herfalls, all sitting in. This section of the course, not usually one that you want to give too much energy. Usually things are brought back pretty quickly here. But we'll see if something does pay off. Maybe a couple of counterattacks. White now, this is interesting. Coming in for the final lap, maybe trying to take a flyer. Why would you?
Arrow.
This is weird. It's not going anywhere.
Arrow power up as well.
Arrow power
up here as well.
Very
strange
very,
tactic there.
Maybe an accident? We'll have to wait and see. We are not seeing a heart rate from White. Perhaps it dropped out.
As well, coming under that banner, maybe he's looking to set up Nick White and was looking for a feather power up, using that aero power up, wanting a feather up. I'm not quite sure of the tactics there. It might be working for his brother there. Maybe wants to rival the other in-house competition of the Coaches Cup between me and Pat Shaw.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And Claudia, it's on my mind. Trust me, Claudia, and I'm 100% there with you. And they are about to come in for the finish. Actually, we'll definitely be focused on the women for the rest of their race here. Vicky Whitelaw, actually, she's been out the front here 2 minutes up, actually 4.9 watts per kilogram here, as you can see, and 137 is the difference. I'm not sure that she is, G. Whitehouse, though, here, 4.8 watts per kilogram, able to get away. 9 seconds is the difference here. Minute and a half.
That's a high heart rate there too, Nathan, up around the 186. So definitely sitting at threshold, but nice cadence on top of that as well. Keeping the legs spinning, keeping them rolling at that nice 100 RPM there. So it looks like that she's settling here to a nice rhythm and holding that threshold. Heart rate isn't really fluctuating too much there, from 186 to 187 beats. So she's sitting on that red line there right now.
Yeah, 3.8 watts per kilogram here from Whitelaw. She's definitely right up on that red line there, right up in that threshold. She wants to close this down. Now, we might see a similar situation here from that we saw with Pithy, actually, where he was able to close that gap down on the downhill. We'll have to see if that is going to happen. 5.0 watts per kilogram. She has a kick here. This is a serious effort. Roper doesn't want to let her get away here, wants to get on that podium for the silver. And we saw her in the 5.6 watts per kilogram for a second, but up in that 188, 189, just holding on as well as she can to this pace here. 6 seconds is the difference for a silver medal out there today. Roper seems super motivated. Not sure it's going to happen, though. Whitelaw still has her work cut out for her, though, Wes.
Yeah, she does. Roper is on the ropes, and looks like Whitelaw as well. Like, all time trialing it out here. We usually see this in some of the women's racing, this sort of effect. Obviously, it hasn't quite got the higher numbers and volume, but we usually see, even with some of the races I've seen in women's racing in the E-Crit, when they're all bunched up, they usually like to do this solo efforts. They're more comfortable with these time trial efforts. If they're confident in their ability, they like to sit in that red line. And as we can see, each one of these riders is probably sitting on the threshold heart rate here. As we can see, Whitelaw is at 175 and also holding a nice cadence there. So all of these riders now are just sitting on that red line, and it's going to be hard for them to gain back time at each other, because it looks like they're all sitting around a similar watts per kilo as well. Fluctuating a little bit there, but up to 5 watts per kilo now for Whitelaw.
Looks like Roper was able to close it down. I was not sure she was going to make it happen. 190 beats per minute, though, to make it happen there. It looks like 3.1 watts per kilogram. Whitehouse there, 4.3, as you can see. So these two together now, minute 36 is the difference between the riders that are trying to close this gap. Whitelaw now up in the 6.0 watts per kilogram. It's still possible, though, I think, for these two to bring it back, but it's going to have to be an all-out TT effort. Does Whitelaw have that kind of effort all the way to the line, though. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, she's been pretty consistent all the way through, so definitely going to have some aero power-ups on the downhill, both be working together and be willing to work together all the way to the line. At minute 31, not sure it's going to happen, but still a silver medal on the line here for the women. So we'll see if Roper and Whitehouse are going to work together or just battle it out for that second place on the day. Looking back a little ways now, this is a very different race that we're seeing here, all spread out. A couple of packs working together, or two riders here, two riders there, mainly solo riders, though, riding their own pace at this point. Lots of attacks and all-out mayhem amongst the women's riders. You know, we see this a lot of times in the women's racing where they just they're all in. I mean, there's so much heart I see a lot of times, and the attacks from them are so furious a lot of times that you see this kind of a situation where the packs are not quite as there's not a whole lot of looking at each other. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of holding hands I find in the women's racing. I think you see that in real life with women's racing too, that it's a lot more dynamic than the men's racing, it seems like, as well.
Yeah, definitely with that, Nathan, and also, you know, with the women's racing, not having the larger group numbers also works to an advantage of this time trial situation as well, because if you do get a gap, then everyone sort of goes out their own, and then it does become a time trial, a bit of survival of the fittest. It'd be wise here if these two work together. It looks like they're getting a bit of a gap in between Roper here. So it'd be great if these two work together, because they do have a good chance, if they work strongly on the downhill, to make a move to come back and close this gap down.
We are seeing some comments coming on through here. Ben Daly saying that Whitelaw, Whitehouse, and Booth are teammates at Sydney Uni Women's Staminade. So cool to hear that. That's a great community tidbit there. So we'll have to see how they end up. It looks like Booth here, maybe a little ways back, top 10, maybe able to hang on, but it looks like Whitehouse and Whitelaw might be able to take the 1-2. Whitelaw definitely getting away at this point, but Roper here trying to make sure that that does not happen. So we'll see if she can steal away that 1-2 for Sydney Uni Women's Staminade there. So we'll have to see if that ends up happening for the women's race as they make their way to the finish line. Let's just check in with the men here real quick before we see the finish for the women's race. They are heading on over toward the S-turns, leaving the marina at this point. It doesn't look like there's a little bit of a gap to Kay Lewis. It looks like Jay Cameron here, 55 seconds back. It's still 12 up, though. Nobody's been dropped off at this point as they are heading into their last half a lap. 158 beats per minute. Very calm at this point. It's to be expected. But wait a minute. Deaver was off the back. And now he's got 13 seconds. He did this. Him and Van Dam have both been doing this at the same place. 13 seconds at this point. This is not a place I would want to be right now, honestly.
Yeah, it's certainly in no man's land a little bit there, and especially leading in, being hard at threshold, and then you know that you have that final climb.
168 beats per minute, though. If he's got anything to work with here, this might be a threshold effort from the Avish Racing teammate here. Deaver, 15 seconds. They're kind of letting it go out. If he's got a 5 to 6 watts per kilogram to the top, he might be able to hold on to this, but this has to be 5+, I think, all the way to the line. You know, I think it's about
it has to be
20 minutes to the line at this point, 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah.
If he can hold on to that, he might have this.
Yeah, it's a solid ask, but he's certainly going to take it on from off the back to off the front. It could be the same as the New Zealand National Championships. We saw Lawrence go from the back to the front, and now we're going to see maybe a repeat of this, but I highly doubt it. I reckon with this numbers and firepower back there with Troy Herfoss not really unleashing much, but a little bit of a leg shake towards the end of that last time up the climb. I reckon we're going to see some firepower coming in there. Roberts back on the front now, chasing down Ben Van Dam, also in second wheel there. So keep just hovering around there, Ben. Don't do too much of the work there. Want to make sure you keep yourself nice and fresh as well to try and take on the likes of these launches, which is going to happen on this final part of this climb.
Live coaching going on here. No favorites at all here whatsoever coming from Wes or Nathan. Nathan's not telling Cam anything as well coming from Vision Cycling there. But we are seeing at the front here, Johnson now WP test 3.3 watts per kilogram as you can see. And kind of calming down. They did bring back about 3 or 4 seconds there it looks like. So it looks like Deaver might start be seeing the writing on the wall a little bit here as what the reality is trying to keep this pack away from him. Lewis there 3.7 calming down again. He might need a little bit more than what we're seeing here. So we'll have to see what happens with these riders. We'll have to see. Looking through, though, for the women, they are about to exit or enter the volcano for the final time on their downhill. Whitelaw here 3 minutes up, though. As you can see, just about to enter the volcano and exit for her finish. 173 beats per minute, walking away right from the get-go on the first climb, was able to hold off for 2 laps, and barring any kind of any kind of mechanical or anything like that, or perhaps also as it is provisional results, but it seems like a lot of people do know her in the community. Seems like a very strong rider in real life, riding for innovation, maybe able to take down this national championship. They're definitely going to be the first one across the line at 4.5 watts per kilogram, 173 beats per minute. Whitelaw absolutely killing it out here today, Wes. I don't think she's going to be caught. It's a race for second.
It is a race for second now. I was hoping that maybe those other 2 riders could Roper and that could get together and try and work together here to bring Whitelaw back. But I don't think that's going to happen now. I think Whitelaw is riding a nice, solid tempo there, which he has been the whole time in that 170 heart rate now, ticking along, and I think she's going to take the W away today for the women's race.
Looking through her race history, definitely a lot of riding out on Zwift. 166 races out on Zwift, has an FTP of 290 watts, actually, so very strong rider. Looks like her 5-minute, her 20-minute are her strengths, actually, for sure, and that would make a lot of sense. Her 1 minute and sprint power not there nearly as much comparatively on her graph there. So definitely Vicky strong for getting away from the pack and holding on to a TT effort like this. Definitely worked out in her favor. She looks like she's going to be the provisional winner for the Australian National Championships out there today. But Whitehouse here now, it looks like pulling for Roper. It looks like Roper just hanging on in the wheels here. Interested to see what kind of a sprint might work out between these riders. Let's go ahead and take a quick little look at Georgie Whitehouse and Emily Roper real quickly. What kind of skill set do they have out on course? It does look like 8.6 watts per kilogram is the max for 15 seconds here coming from Whitehouse. And then it will be for the other rider, Roper. I'm not seeing anything for the requested profile, actually. So maybe the profile being made private or no past data for Emily Roper out on Zwift, actually, as I'm not seeing anything for her for under a profile. But definitely showing up in the race. Maybe not registered with ZwiftPower.com.
What equipment is Roper on there? Can we have a look at that? That might give us a clear indication. If she's
no, I cannot. There
maybe
is...
just a late.
Let me see here real quick if there is any information on that. And I'm not seeing... There's literally no information at all. So it's most likely an unattached API that it has not been given prior to jumping into the race. Did not connect to Zwift Power as a third-party app. Just so everybody knows, whenever you get involved in Zwift racing, you're wondering, what are you talking about? All of the results do go through ZwiftPower.com for most of the racing. So you do need to register an account with ZwiftPower.com. You do connect at my.zwift.com or just head on over to Zwift.com and log in, and you can find under connections, you can find all the third-party apps specifically for racing. ZwiftPower.com, you're going to need to connect that for all of the results. Prior to all national championships now as well, you do need to also submit your connections, your national governing body, the number for your account with your national governing body as well for your license. So that is how we keep all the verifications solid. with Zwift. So for the women's racing, then let's go ahead and make sure that we catch Whitelaw. She is going to be making her way across the line here in just a moment. She might have actually already come across the line here. Roper here, Whitehouse, and unable to go any further forward with the current tools in game at this point. So hopefully we can move forward a little bit more. And it looks like Whitelaw did drop an arrow in sprint, but not allowing me to jump on over to that point of the course as we weren't over there. But we'll be able to catch the final sprint between the women. But Vicky did come across the line there, 107.50. 107.50 is the time, and she will be the provisional winner at this point for the Australian National Championships.
Nathan, are you reading the comments there from the Facebook feed? Troy Herfoss is saying, Roper is my girlfriend. She's legit, because a few people were questioning her not being signed up, but Troy Herfoss is also racing right now, and I assume his girlfriend is probably racing with him as well. So their garage would be a pretty hot at the moment. I'm sure there's some cooling methods going on. I'm pretty sure Troy's up on the Gold Coast as well. So definitely they'd have some water bottles flowing in that garage. I'm sure they'd be just throwing them as they'd been drinking them, just like they would out in a real life bike race. Just grab a bottle, as you finish it, throw it off, grab the next one.
Yeah, so I did see that in the comments, and I am seeing about 10.1 watts per kilogram. Whitehouse now trying to kick up in the 14 watts per kilogram. Roper with the drafting power up. Can she come around, though? That's going to be the question, but Whitehouse able to get away, it looks like here. 12.6 watts per kilogram coming from Whitehouse. It looks like she is going to be able to pull off the silver today out on course. Solid effort there from her, and a definitely killer sprint coming from Whitehouse. Taking that silver medal will be Roper coming across for third. So solid effort there between the women. We'll get provisional results for the rest of the top 10 momentarily. Let's go ahead and jump back into the men's race, and it is still Deaver off the front, actually. Only 11 seconds. They're just kind of letting them dangle out there in no man's land a little bit.
I think that's, it's definitely working through the bunch's advantage, sort of just letting him dangle there, just hovering out that, again, Nathan, he's not over that 20-second mark. If you're over that 20-second mark, then that's when it becomes a little bit more frightening and dangerous. But these 10-second sort of gaps, you can actually close with a power up or with a solid watts per kilo in that orange range mark. You can close that gap down really quickly.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. And it looks like at about 20 seconds now or so, I think they're going to be able to hold on to this. But Johnson immediately, final climb up over the top here. 12 watts per kilogram coming from Z Johnson. It looks like Zach with WP Taz now. 171 beats per minute, 492 watts. Now, Johnston here from Team HDR trying to respond. Cam Roberts knowing that Zach is a very strong rider, trying to follow up as well. Deaver's gap, I think, is going to be eliminated very quickly with only 10 seconds. As Cam Roberts here, 3 seconds back now, up in those orange numbers, knowing that Zach is not one to let go. And also, Wes, let's talk about the kind of climb this is. A group together, because it flattens out so much, is going to work so much better. And there's a huge advantage with being with riders and not just riding your own pace.
Absolutely. And that's going to also come into effect. Obviously, that last little part is that 10%. That's going to really establish what group you're with once over the top, if there is a group left at the end of this, with the fireworks being laid down. But as I said before, it looks like Kay Lewis, which is actually in Zwift HQ, has closed that gap down as well. So the riders overtaking each other here and launching past. We see not quite in the orange numbers here now, but certainly up in the high, over 5 watts to 6 watts per kilo here. Cameron Roberts up there as well. Johnson still up in front here with the other riders now closing that gap down. And that breakaway has been annihilated now back into the Grupo Compacto of what is left here now. Dover is back in the bunch here from Oliver's Racing.
Yeah, it looks like Dover here, Oliver's Racing, right back in the bunch, closed it right on down. Will he have anything left, though, after being off the front for so long? Might just find himself right off the back. B. Norton now, 6.5 watts per kilogram. Herfoss, 1 second back from Maycock, it looks like, as well as Al White. 4 seconds back from the main group. as it does flatten out. If they do back off at all, he will get back on terms, but I'm not sure that's going to happen here. Johnson and Richards, it looks like Roberts still keeping the pace high. We are seeing 40 kilometers per hour, 43 kilometers per hour, 45 now in this little bit of downhill. White now 48, so it looks like they have a little bit more speed. I think they're going to close it down here. Herfoss now needs to make it happen. Van Dam off the back there, though, not going to be able to hang on. Looks like Herfoss now has his work cut out for him. 2 seconds is the difference if he wants to match the garage's accomplishment. Hit the podium out of the garage. He's got to close it down now. Not sure it's going to happen. And he might be bested from the garage today. We'll see if he can close that down. 6 seconds is the difference. I don't think it's going to happen here. We'll see, though. And Lewis here, they smell blood. They can taste it in the water here. They know the strong riders are off the back here. 8 watts per kilogram coming from Lewis here, trying to keep that gap as high as possible as he sees Maycock, White, as well as Herfoss off the back. Herfoss looks like the towel's been thrown. 3.5 for a moment there, 4.8. Not sure it's going to be happening. We'll give him a ride on, though, as he does have a 604 up on the top. Is that a 604? These guys have been killing themselves out there. Oh. I mean, demolishing themselves over the top of these climbs. I'm surprised they can even move anymore. Lewis, 6.5 watts per kilogram, 191 bids per minute. It's down to about 10 riders.
Well, Lewis is being up there and amongst it. In here at Zwift HQ. Also, Zach is right up there amongst it. Cameron Roberts up amongst it as well. So this is, who have we got off the front here? Is it Zach gone again? So Zach's shaking this last part out. We're going to get to that 10% steep part. Are we on it yet? We're on the 5. It's going to kick up soon here, and that's where it's going to be really laid down. After they get over this climb, it's going to be absolutely crucial that they don't get a repeat of someone coming off the back to the front. So they need to push on with this, Nathan, all the way to the finish after they come on the other side of this climb.
Yeah, 5.5 watts per kilogram here coming from Johnson. He had up in the 10 watts per kilogram there for a moment. B. Norton now 2.8. And Nick White now 7.2. Team Dimension data kit on there. Looks like he was top 3 last year in the Zwift Academy. Cam Roberts, they're sitting in just a little bit. Looks like he is trying to grab a wheel and play it smart. Not too much of a worry, it looks like, from him just yet, but up in that 186, it looks like he may be suffering just a tad. And looking through at these riders, it does look like 8 total not able to drop off anybody. Now, there is a feather power-up. Deaver was not dropped off, actually, so 5.7 coming from him, and that is actually with a bonus of about 1 watt per kilogram. K. Lewis now 5.8, sitting in, following that attack with the feather power-up, and I think Deaver's actually just trying to hang on with that feather power-up. I don't think that's actually an attack. I think that has more to do with the fact that he's suffering a little bit and just wants to be on the front and not find himself off the back when the actual attacks do start up and over the top. There may be one more kick to come. I think that's all that's left, though, before it's all group compacted to the line. One more kick over the top, I think, Wes, is all we're going to see.
Yeah, we just saw the end of that era, the featherweight being used up in the final part there by Nick White. So I'm sure that probably, I haven't seen Cameron Roberts unleash an aero power up. I'm sure he's probably got a aero one in his back pocket there. So Zach as well, I don't think we saw Zach do it. Oh, there we go. Zach has popped the featherweight power up. So now's the time to use it because he's not going to have too much effect in the sprint with that. So up on that 10% part of the climb here now. He's really got to go on with this, and the other riders look like they're not giving him too much gap here. It's going to be very hard for him to pull away because this next part is a very challenging part of trying to go solo with a group chasing behind, and that effect of the group, Nathan, on a downhill really comes into play.
3 seconds is the difference here. B. Norton now trying to close it down. 8 watts per kilogram, as you can see. Nick White there, 8.6. It is only 3 seconds. That's not enough, I don't think. Johnson is going to have some serious effort. At 6.4 watts per kilogram, that's up into the upper end of 300 to 400 watts. I don't think he has the raw power to hold off some of the riders that are trying to chase him down. White here now 197. Look at these heart rates. They are all in for this National Championships jersey here. Johnson now 7 watts per kilogram, 183 beats per minute. Cam Roberts now trying to close it down, and the predictions need to start coming now. We've got our top 7 riders, I believe, as we did have Van Dam and Deaver fall off the back here. So 7 riders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 riders for sure that are trying to grab that top spot and grab that national kit for 1 year. out on the Zwift here. So Lewis now sitting in 2.8 watts per kilogram. Nick White up and out of the saddle, trying to close it down. Does not want Johnson to stay away. Johnson, though, up in 11 watts per kilogram, 60 kilometers per hour. Wes, this is insane.
Yeah, we've seen Johnson do this in the E-crits as well. He's went on actually solo and won a couple of these E-crits like this. So Johnson, a young rider, a developing rider, riding around the roads in Tasmania, now riding around the roads in Watopia from his garage, I'm assuming. Zach Johnson looks like he's going to actually get pulled back here, but nonetheless, I reckon he will go down swinging. I don't reckon this will be the last attack we'll see from him.
Yeah, he most likely going to be brought back in, but definitely making a few matches being bird behind here. Cam Roberts now sitting at 2.7 watts per kilogram. Lots of riders just waiting for the group to come back together. And Mitch with a couple of shots fired. The emotions are coming through. That's for sure. But Johnson here now 6.1 watts per kilogram on the front. Cam Roberts here 3.5, 159 beats per minute. Now Lewis, see Hall there as well. Now where did Hall come from there? It looks like maybe a couple of the riders there coming through from the other side of the course that are about 4 kilometers behind at this point, actually. So as they do descend, and you can see on the right hand side a few of the riders that are coming up the climb will come through here and there. So we're not going to click through too much until we do get down, so that we do not end up on the other side of the course here. But as we do see, it looks like Johnson is caught at this point, and B. Johnson is the one to bring it back together there from the AHDR team. Let's go ahead and hear what is the predictions. 5K to go. Pat Shaw is in there letting us know. Carly Terry gives us all the ride on, the thumbs up there. And looking through, who do we think is going to take the win? I'm going to throw down Cam Roberts. I think Cam Roberts got the experience. I think he's got the power. I think he knows how to race Zwift. I'm throwing it out there. You know, and this is no vision, bias or anything. Cam Roberts, I think, when it comes to being experienced in Zwift racing and what we've seen in the E-crit time and time again, I think he can throw down and take the W. But there are plenty of others out there still amongst this 7 riders. WP Taz, I would think for you maybe, but what are you seeing here? Ali again, White as well. Being the team dimension data, maybe he's been saving something up. I haven't seen him race a lot on Zwift. What do you think there, Wes?
No, I haven't seen him race a lot on Zwift either. So also we have Lewis, who's been very impressive racing here at HQ. A bit of an underdog coming in this race, unknown, has been doing a lot of the workout series rides as well. So this is going to be interesting now. Like for someone like Zach Johnson, he's not a sprinter, but I reckon he could probably podium in a sprint like this. But if he wants to go for the W, he's going to have to go for the attack. And then some of these other riders as well, like coming up against Cameron Roberts in the final sprint, I wouldn't be too confident. I mean, coming into this now, I would have to call Cameron Roberts for the win. He hasn't used his aero power up. I'm sure he's got one in his pocket. He's probably been guarding it for 2 laps. So this is where I think it's going to be going to come into play. The power that I know that Cameron Roberts can put out in a sprint is impressive, and we've seen that in all the Zwift E-crits and the Chop races as well. So can't go past Cameron Roberts, but let's see what happens. It was a very interesting final for the New Zealand Championships, so let's see what happens in the men's.
Just about 3K, 2 to 3K to go at this point, and we are getting our predictions coming in from the chat. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look at those. We are seeing Pat Shaw coming through saying Nick White. No bias there whatsoever. And Johnson here is my vote here coming from Matt Yankow, as well as Chris Johnston as well. And see the similar last name there. So B. Johnson there is a prediction coming on through. We do see Vicky Whitelaw calling out for B. Johnson as well. And Nick White, he's got the kick for the win from Campbell Jones. And some GOAT Richards there coming from Vicky Whitelaw as well. Cam, you've got this, mate, coming from Jeffrey Creel. Nick White there from Pat Shaw, obviously. Lots and lots of predictions coming on through. Thanks, everybody, for all the predictions. Really appreciate them. And we will see how this plays out for the national championships for Australia. Again, you get to where? Well, the rider that does this, not you, but the rider who's the first across the line and meets all the requirements, gets the Australian national kit in game for 1 year. We already saw Vicky Whitelaw get across the line first today. the provisional results. What's going to happen for the men's racing? Cam Roberts sitting in, been kind of the favorite amongst us here for the announcers. Nick, though, White, definitely going to be a favorite for those who have watched him last year take a top 3 in the Team Dimension Data Zwift Academy, actually. So Zach Johnson with the attack off the front on the downhill and the uphill. No aero power-up, I believe, at this point, unless he got really lucky on the uphill, because he used a feather on the uphill. If he got super lucky, he might have an aero sitting in. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. We might have to wait and see with that one. You know, the drafting boost would probably be his only hope if he didn't get it. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for him to take on Cameron Roberts, who's a very fine sprinter without an aero power up. Everyone that's going to take on Cam, and that's assuming Cam has one. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he has something else. Maybe he has a drafting boost, or maybe he has those 250 experience points.
Maybe he just has experience points, and anytime you get an experience points, it's just slam the keyboard. What? Seriously?
We're getting some in-house coaching here. Tex Turner is yelling out, "Attack Zach! Attack Zach!" Lewis is
14
gone.
watts per kilogram. 12 watts per kilogram from way out.
Wow, this is a huge gap he's opened up as well, and looks like they're responding, but this is a long range. This is like, a K and a bit out now, or just under, as they come through here now. Look at this, Nathan. I did not expect this.
This works sometimes, though, if he can hold on to 7 to the line at this point. But no, Cam Roberts closing it right on down. White there as well. 2 seconds of difference. Already an aero power-up, though, coming from Richards. That's way out from 30 seconds to the line. 7.9 watts per kilogram coming from Richards. You can see he's going to be the lead-out man. It's all said and done for Richards. He doesn't have an aero power-up any longer. White sitting in the wheels now. Here comes Roberts starting to wrap it up. Where are the aero power-ups, though? That's going to be the question. Watch Roberts. That's who I'm looking for here to come on through, but nobody's going. This is the moment, and no one's going. Now there it is. There's the aero power up. Cam Roberts, 14 watts per kilogram. White trying to follow. You can see it. 15 watts per kilogram from White. He might be able to make it happen. Here goes Nick White, 16 watts per kilogram. Nick White all day long on the front with 16 watts per kilogram. It's going to be White. Roberts, I believe Norton will have to take a look at the replay, but what an effort there from the riders. Absolutely killing it. Nick White, Team Dimension Data, top 3 last year for the Zwift Academy. What an amazing ride coming from him. It looks like he is most likely going to be the Australian national champion. He won to the line there. Provisional results are going to be him. What an effort there was. What a sprint.
That was an awesome sprint. Well timed, power up come in. Wow, that was incredible. Yeah, definitely. I thought Roberts had that, but then when we saw the pace that Nick come in at the end there, that was incredible.
Perfectly timed by Nick there. Like,
he must have a good coach.
He must. Yeah, Pat Shaw. Pat Shaw's got to be smiling. Ear to ear right now. Ear to ear right now.
Sitting right next to me now. He's looking like a Cheshire cat.
Let's take another look at it here real quick. Here comes Roberts coming on through. And there's White, though. Timed it perfectly. Do you see how he sat in and then threw the power up and came on through in the last 200 meters? Now in the last 100 comes right on by. And there it is.
I think he's been practicing this with Shorey the last couple of weeks on Zwift. I'm sure that's been practiced. That looked to a T, just like a proper lead out. He used to use Cameron Roberts just to absolutely catapult past the shake and bake. And did Cameron Roberts hold on for a second? It looked like he did.
I think he did. We'll take a look real quick there. But it looked like Norton came through for third place.
Brad Norton.
I'll double check it here. And it does look like it. It is going to be Nick White. OLI, followed up by Cam Roberts, and then Brad Norton for third place. So what an amazing effort. There's Zach Johnson, then B. Johnson, followed up by S. Richard from Innovation. Kay Lewis there, hanging out with you guys over there at the Zwift station there in Australia. That's awesome.
Yes,
he's looks like Deaver, White, and then Van Dam across the line.
Yep, Van Dam. So the Coaches Cup has been taken out by Pat Shaw. Great showing, though, by the Wolfpack Taz crew. Ben Van Dam unleashing there and following some of those early moves as well. And Zach, with that attack, it was a very big ask to try and stay away the line, but he gave it his all. So all the riders out there today give it their all. So it was a great racing and very exciting to see everyone turn up, and the numbers as well. We had 140 odd starters, close to 150, I think, as the gun went off. So it's certainly been a fun race to commentate.
Yeah, absolutely. Great time commentating. Always great to see all the energy coming from Australia actually around Zwift racing. You guys are always super hyped about the racing, and what an effort there from Nick White across the line. Again, official results will be coming out from Zwift as they do sort through them and make sure everybody meets all of the requirements. But provisional results do see Nick White as well as Vicky Whitelaw being your national champions for the men and women respectively. Now, next up, we do have South African national championships. Those will be starting in about 9 hours from now, 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I'll be here to cast those for all of you, I believe, with Mr. Jonathan Noblet. So thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Wes, appreciate you joining us for the broadcast out here today.
We had a great race, Nathan. Thanks very much for having us. And we do a quick recap with maybe a crossover with Pat, who's in studio here. They can give a quick insight to also Nick, but a little bit of the women's racing as well. Having covered a lot of the NRS racing, Pat can give us a little insight to the women's race as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a quick look while he jumps into the caster's chair. We can take a quick little look actually at the women's finish, I believe, here. Let's go ahead and see what I got here for the women's race. I believe we did get the that finish there. So let's go ahead and see if we can grab that for all you and see how that ended up finishing up. But it does look like we may be able to bring that on through here. So go ahead and bring Pat in, and we'll see if we can see a replay for them. But for the women's provisional results, Vicky Whitelaw here, it does look like Whitehouse, then Roper. We did miss a little bit there with Griffiths and Siemens. We didn't see them come on through. Rose there, Aerosmith, and then Ranson, Fetter, and Lee. So solid results for all the women there for the top 10. And great job to all of them. So, Pat, great. Well, you're actually Wes all of a sudden. But Pat, so let's hear a little bit about your analysis there for the race and how things ended up playing out.
Yeah, well, great to see so many of the National Road Series riders come out for the women's race. Vicky Whitelaw, obviously, she was expected to win. She was a big favourite coming in, but a great race behind. Emily Roper, Georgia Whitehouse, and Miranda Griffiths pushed hard to fill the podium. But Sydney Uni Staminade team, they're going to carry the jersey now, so that's pretty cool on Zwift. And it looked like a very tough race. In fact, Vicky Whitelaw, I think she was top 30 in the fastest times up the King of the Mountain on the Volcano today. So it shows that she was really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, Vicky was absolutely flying out there today. I mean, she got away right off the bat. Do you know anything about her in real life racing that she would be able to TT away like that?
Yes, she does have great time trial capabilities, but she also coaches a lot of riders too and mentors riders. She's a great champion to take it out, and particularly for the first championship. I think this will really build now as the hype continues after today's championship.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks a lot, Pat. I really appreciate that. And, the National Race Series obviously having some influence about who's the strong riders out there in Australia in real life, getting some amazing efforts here, and Palmares out on Zwift.
Yeah, well, look at the men's race as well.
Sorry about that. Great. Sorry about that, Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I didn't mean. I was just saying the men's race was a brilliant race as well. It was non-stop, and we had Kieran in-house here, and he put down that long-range attack at the end. We thought maybe he could take it out, but the legs just filled up with lactic acid, and the cream rose to the top with Zach Johnson, obviously, and Cam Roberts, pre-race favourites with Aaron Dunn. But great to see Zwift Academy finalist last year, Nick White, take it out.
Yeah, so Nick there grabbing that, I mean, that's pretty amazing by Nick. I mean, were you expecting that? And you're coaching him, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, coach both Nick and Liam. Liam was in the top 10 there today as well. But yeah, it's not unexpected. I did say to the guys here at Zwift in Melbourne that if it came to a sprint, I didn't see anyone beating Nick White. He's got the best watts per kilo sprint potentially in the National Road Series behind Sam Welsford, world track champion. So, yeah, I don't see that as a surprise victory today.
Yeah, definitely one of the favorites coming in. Definitely one of the favorites coming in. So great job. And I heard sounded like a lot of cheering and excitement there in-house as well, with a couple of riders racing in-house.
Yeah, well, as I said, Kieran was here and he put down the long-range attacks. He was leading into that final 500 metres. But anyone that races on Zwift, particularly over a race of 60 kilometres and under that pressure, there's not much left in the tank for the sprint. It'll be really interesting to see what the maximum wattage hit in the sprint today was, but I wouldn't suspect it would be super high because the fatigue was really quite hard on the riders on that course.
Yeah, for sure, Pat. Well, Pat, thanks a lot for the all of the commentary. We look forward to more from you on Tuesdays and Thursdays alongside Jasper there for the Land Down Under, as always. And congratulations to to the athletes over there, especially with Nick.
Cheers, mate, and I'll see you all on Tuesday night for the eCrit.
Sounds good, Pat. All right, everybody, that's going to be it from us for the Australian National Championships. The South African National Championships are going to be coming at us in just about a few hours here. I think it's 9 hours. I'm being told 6 hours, but I thought it was at 5:30 a.m. my time. We'll have to double check. You can just go ahead and open up over on the Zwift mobile app, check your events, and we will be live with the South African National Championships in 6 hours from now, from what I'm being told by productions right now. So see you out there for South African National Championships. Congratulations to Vicky Whitelaw and Nick White on the provisional national championship kits. To all the viewers and riders out there that joined in for the broadcast, great job to everybody out there. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And as always, ride on.